Good morning, and thank you very much for coming to this AGM. And many thanks to those of you that are following us streaming. Today, we are holding this special AGM that is very important. It's an AGM, and we are going to subject to your approval our future listing on the stock exchange market. Well, this is a consolidation of a process that we initiated more than 4 years ago, and it's also the fulfillment of one of the targets we've defined in the strategic plan that we presented to the market in March last year, so that we can carry on growing in the market. And seen from another angle, it means that we've reached several objectives of BME growth because we are supporting companies in their growth and we are facilitating access to financial markets, something that in our particular case has been done and which I can say that this has been a very satisfactory stage in BME growth in which Arteche has transformed. And since we started in June 2021, we have grown. We have also gained more visibility. We have incorporated new capabilities, new technologies, new companies, and new joint ventures. And we've also initiated paths in new promising segments like energy storage or the digitization of assets. So in a nutshell, we have extended our market policy and we've also entered the electrical sector. And this has been thanks to the support of all of the people that are working with us, our investors and our shareholders. And today, we are asking you to trust us because we know that we can address these challenges and make the most of these opportunities. And we're doing so today on a very special day because December the 4th, it's Santa Barbara's Day, a date that for Arteche, it's something symbolic and which connects us to our roots. Saint Barbara is the patron saint of the miners, shipbuilders, and other professions that use explosives. Don't worry. And also the patron saint of electricians. She protects them against all kinds of short circuits and electric shocks and things like that. And Saint Barbara has always been a date that historically we had a mass first, and we recognize the talent and commitment of our people to Arteche. And well, we are recognizing the people who are working for Arteche, and we're grateful for their dedication. And it's something that we're also doing through this AGM. We are recognizing your commitment towards the company. And now that we are the AGM, I think that it's a wonderful moment to share with you, investors and shareholders, what our project is all about. So what we're going to do, as usual, Luis and I will do this, and we will refer to the main landmarks of this year. And to finish, and before giving the floor to the secretary, I would also like to recognize the vision and the commitment of the board of directors. Many thanks for your support. Many thanks for your capacity to listen to us and to support us, which is what has allowed us to make progress along this path. And we are recovering lots of expectations and we are generating more value in this group. It's more than 2,800 people in the world, which are the real driving force behind this company. So thank you all very much indeed for your enthusiasm and for your talent too, and for your dedication. And from now on, we have to carry on growing because the best is still yet to come. And we're going to do this according to our own style and our own culture by working together. Thank you very much. And now I'm going to give the floor to the secretary so that he can go through the terms for the call of this meeting. Well, thank you very much, Chairman. Okay, so let's look into the formal terms of this extraordinary AGM. The board of directors of the company called this AGM to be held on an extraordinary basis today on December the 4th of 2025 at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's with the first call for it to take place at the Palacio de Urgoiti, which is where we are right now on Calle Arritugane in Munguia. And in this regard, the announcement was published on November the 3rd of 2025 on the corporate website, as well as on the website of BME Growth, according to the legal provisions. So, as established by the company bylaws, we say that this AGM is chaired by the president of the board of directors, and the secretary is also present. And the members of the board are present at this AGM, with the exception of three of them who have not been able to make it due to professional reasons or because of health issues. But as regards attendance to this meeting, and although we are still drafting the list with the most recent arrivals, we can say that we have a provisional number of shareholders and shares that are present or represented that have the right to vote at this AGM. And the stock capital of the company is 5,709,401,000.30 euros, and is divided to 57,994,013 shares of 0.10 euros of nominal value each one of them represented by means of account notations that are fully subscribed and fully paid out. So now that we have the provisional count regarding the votes that have been received and the votes delegated, we have at this AGM, we have 11 shareholders here that hold over 30 million shares, which represent 52.72% of the capital stock. And represented shareholders are 10 with 16.7 million shares, and those 29.30% of the capital stock. So we have 46.8 million shares represented here, representing 82.0% of the capital stock. So in this regard, we can also confirm that we have either present or represented more than 50% of the capital stock. So therefore, we meet the minimum quorum required by Article 194 and also by Article 22 of the company bylaws that requires, for the valid constitution of this AGM in the first call, it requires a presence of shareholders either present or represented in excess of 50% of the votes. So therefore, and considering that these are only provisional figures, I would like to propose that this extraordinary AGM be validly constituted so that we can now move on to the decisions to be taken in relation to the issues that are on the agenda, or those other issues which, according to the legal provisions, could be addressed too in a valid manner. Well, now that these requirements have been fully met, I declare that the AGM of our company has been validly constituted as explained by the secretary, and I would like to ask you now to move on to the agenda of this call. Well, as you saw in the advertisement that I previously referred to, the agenda of today covers the following points. Firstly, that we exclude the negotiation of the totality of the shares representing the capital stock of BME Growth, and that we negotiate the totality of these actions on the stock exchange through the Spanish Stock Exchange Interconnection System. Point number two, modification of the bylaws of the company in order to adapt this to the bylaws that apply to a company that is listed on the stock exchange. And here we suggest that we approve a new text, a completely new text. Point number three, approval of the regulations applicable to the AGM. Point number four, report to the AGM regarding the approval of a new regulation applicable to the board. And point number five has to do with the appointment of two new members of the board of directors. As Fisquat Ber has left as a consequence of the requirements of Article 5291 that do not allow legal persons to be appointed to the boards of companies listed on the stock exchange. As Cisco Bet Sociedad Limitada is going to leave, we suggest that we appoint Mr. Lander Arteche as a proprietary director and for a statutory period of 4 years. And then we also have Gestión de Capital Riesgo del País Vasco that's going to leave, and we suggest the appointment of Mrs. Amaya del Villar Rodrigo as a proprietary director for 4 years. Point number 6 refers to the approval of a new remuneration policy for the directors, applicable from the moment it is approved today until the end of the fiscal year 2025 and also during the fiscal years 2026 and 2027. Points number 7 and 8 on the agenda refer to the delegation of faculties and so that we can make public the agreements passed here. And point number 8 will refer to the approval of the minutes of this meeting. Well, now that we've gone through the agenda, I would like to ask the Secretary to explain the agreements that are to be proposed, notwithstanding others that could also apply, that could be validly adopted. Well, as I explained in the introduction, and well, as regards to the agreements to be voted on today, ladies and gentlemen, all of you have been able to go through the contents since November the 3rd, 2025, when the call for the AGM was made public. But apart from the text of the agreements, what we also published is the texts of the attachments and the approval of the text suggested for the social bylaws or the company bylaws and the approval of the AGM and the new remuneration policy for directors. And as you can imagine, these are very lengthy texts and not really much fun. So we are going to skip reading all of them because it's not about finishing today at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, of course. Although as regards the agreements, I'm going to deliver a very brief introduction, but in any case, during the Q&A, you will have the right not only to ask questions, but also you can ask us to read the complete texts of any things that you are interested in. Well, first, we have the element that this AGM is focused on, and that is that we exclude the negotiation of the totality of the shares of the BME growth segment, and that we also accept the negotiation of the totality of the shares that represent our capital stock on the Spanish Stock Exchange. And the agreement talks about this request for exclusion, and it establishes a number of actions, and the board of directors of the company in a year should be able to execute this agreement of exclusion and also accept the listing of shares on the stock exchange and also in the Spanish Stock Exchange interconnection system. Point number two has a direct consequence and is connected to point number 1, and that is the social or the company bylaws. In other words, the rules of the company have to be adapted to the fact that the AGM has to decide that the shares of the company are not listed in the BME growth sector, but rather in the Spanish Stock Exchange system. So this is why we have to adapt the text of the bylaws and also to the best practices and proper corporate governance measures. So this is why we firstly say that we have to change the numbers of the articles, and secondly, we have to approve several new articles. Article number 8 that refers to the communication of significant stocks, and which talks about the transmission of stocks, and we have to regulate the reduction of capital in 19th, and then we have the call for AGMs in 15. It's the rights of attendance and representation of shareholders, and 12, the composition of the board, and 34 would be the appointment of positions on the board. And then we have meetings of the board, and 18th, that is the general obligations of the directors, and 39, the regulation of the remuneration of the members of the board. And 41, the Audit and Compliance Committee and how it's run. 42, the functioning of the Appointments and Remunerations Committee. And 33, the rules that apply to the formulation of annual accounts and to the status of non-financial information. 34, the regulation of account auditors and of the verifier of non-financial information. And finally, 47 and 48 will regulate the annual report on governance, on corporate governance, and the remuneration of directors. There are two specific elements that have to be approved by the companies that are listed on the stock exchange. But all of these articles make sense in a transitional period with the approval of Article 53 and Article 54, of course. And today, this AGM, and should you approve this, will ask that we exclude our listing on BME growth and that we move into the regulated market. This is not an immediate process. It's not like pressing a button and that's it. No, there's a period between this AGM and when that happens in which there will be a transition. And we will see that there is a company in BME growth, although we have approved some bylaws that are adapted to a listed company. So this is why Articles 53 and 54 regulate this transitional period. So first we have to be listed on the regulated market, and until then we will apply the UL rules that are currently in force. So this is point number 2 of the agenda. And then we have point number 3, which is the approval of the regulations applicable to the AGM. And this regulation is a requirement of our bylaws and regulates all of the details that have to do with the call of the participation of our shareholders here. Point number 4 tries to inform the AGM on how the board has adopted a new version or a new text of the regulations applicable to the board that modifies in certain aspects. It modifies some of these operational characteristics so this can be adapted to the company's bylaws, the listed company's bylaws. And we're doing so because this is obliged by Article 528 of the corporate law. And then point number 5 refers to the appointment of administrators that I referred to previously, and that is that the bylaws of the listed company doesn't allow legal persons to form part of the administration body to form part of this. So this is why it's necessary to adapt the composition of the board of directors of the company in that particular regard. And as I say, and as Cis Guarbet is leaving, we are going to propose that Arteche Egia be appointed as a priority director for 4 years. And as Gestión de Capital Riesgo is going to be leaving too, we're going to propose the appointment of Doña Maya Villar Rodrigo as a member of the board of directors as a proprietary director and for a period of 4 years. So as regards these two points that we will vote on later separately, it has to be said that the Commission for Remunerations and the Appointments has already issued a favorable report. And this report is also available to all of you on the website. Well, it was made available since the call was published, and I'm about to finish. Point number 6 is this: we have to approve a new remuneration policy for the members of the board for what remains of the 2025 fiscal year and for 2026 and 2027. As regards this point, we also point out that the report is favorable. And point number 7 is the delegation of faculties to the board of directors or to the secretary to issue the pertinent deeds so that the agreements adopted by this AGM can be formalized and can be duly registered. And Mr. Chairman, this is my report. Well, now that we have the formal terms of the AGM, let's go through what this year's been like. A year in which many things have happened, and it's also been a year that we hope to will be finishing in a very positive manner. As I said at the beginning, we're going to review some of the main milestones of the year, and Luis will assist me. Before I said how much the company has changed during this period of time, we still listed with BME growth. And one of the key elements is the creation of value. And here you can see what these 4 years have been like from the point of view of the creation of value. And you can see that we've had sustained growth, and we have we've multiplied by five the value of the worth of the company. And this, I think, it does not only shows how solid the business model, but it also shows that the market trusts us, trusts the company. And it's the end result of a continuous effort that is committed to the business plan and to the execution of our strategies. Well, okay, thank you very much, Alex, and good morning, everybody. And I'm here to talk about the milestones of 2025. In other words, what we've done this year. As you know, we have three pillars at Arteche, and what I'm going to do is focus on these three pillars. And this first pillar that I'm kicking off with, which is the reliability business. And if you remember our strategic plan 2024-26, one of the objectives was to reinforce pillars number two and three. And this is number three, because from the point of view of weight, these were the smallest. So in the case of this pillar in grid reliability, we've carried out two very important inorganic operations. Firstly, we've bought a Madrid company, RTE, that manufactures capacitors. And here you can see one of the test benches. Well, these capacitors form part of the system. So by buying this company in Madrid, we can perform a vertical integration of the solution that we're proposing, both for capacitors and filters, and we can also improve our competitiveness. And this acquisition took place in the month of June, if I'm not mistaken, or at the beginning of July this year. And the second operation that I'm going to refer to has to do with the creation of a joint venture that we call AMETS, which is a joint venture that we formed together with Corporación Mondragón. And this new company is going to focus on power electronics, and in particular, the first project that we are going to be developing in this new organization is what we call a STATCOM, which are basically an asynchronous static capacitor. That sounds somewhat strange. What can this be used for, this STATCOM? Well, it's an element that controls voltage in the electricity sector. It's now very fashionable after the last outage, and this is what we're going to be developing. And I'm going to move on now. We've spoken about the third pillar, but now I'm going to talk about the second pillar, the grid automation pillar. And this is one of those pillars that where we wanted to reinforce our weight in the Arteche structure. And here I'm going to refer to another company that we've created that is called Arin. And this joint venture has been set up together with Elewit. For those of you that don't know what Elewit is, this is the R&D element of Corporación Redella, and Corporación Redella is the owner of Red Eléctrica de España. That is the company that transports electricity, that forms part of Grupo Arteche. So at this company, we're going to be developing solutions, electronics, protection, control, measuring, and asset management. And what we've done is bring together the knowledge that Arteche has through its company SAC in Madrid with the developments that have been carried out by Elewit in recent years to improve their equipment. And to finish with the third pillar, let's say that this is the historic pillar of Arteche, the foundational pillar for our transformers. And here you can see a picture of the new high voltage laboratory that we've opened in Mexico. We opened this place at the beginning of November, and as you can see, it's very similar to the laboratory we have in Munguia. And the goal is to provide a service to our customers in the United States, Canada, and Mexico by increasing the possibility of performing tests, high voltage tests. And it's a cutting edge facility in America. There are very few companies that have this kind of facilities. So we've spoken about the three pillars, and now I'm going to be talking about new technologies. And as it couldn't be otherwise, we invest a significant percentage of our resources, both human and financial, in new technologies. And here we can say that well, data management and the applying AI to management processes. And here we can talk about sustainability. We are deeply committed to sustainability. And well, there's an important element that has to do with eco design, with designing products that from the moment of their birth are more sustainable because we are using elements or we simplify the carbon footprint. And now I'm going to hand the floor back to Alex. Thank you very much. Well, okay, there's something else that we don't really talk about a lot. And I spoke about transformation before, about the transformation of Arteche and in terms of our visibility and reputation. And we thought that it was a wonderful moment to share with you the recognition of the companies that interact with us in different areas, in different business areas, that is. We do not do things just to get a recognition or to get an award, but the fact that we are recognized by leading companies is also makes us feel very proud. And it also allows us to know that we are doing things well. And we have recognitions in three areas that you know are essential for us: our values and our culture, and the safety of people and innovation. Here you can see the picture of a recognition as a company focused on values. This was given to us this year. And then there's another significant award, and this is the award that was given to our team for applying AI to audiovisual systems to train people in the area of safety, because this demonstrates that AI is not only a tool for business purposes, but also to provide training and to increase safety for people. And the third prize that we're presenting here today is a prize that was presented to us by Iberdrola from the electricity sector. And this is a very special customer, and we've been named the Supplier of the Year in the area of innovation because this really shows the efforts that we've made. So these recognitions will recognize the work done by all of us and by the shareholders, and we believe that this is something that should be mentioned here today at the AGM. And this is an award, well, this is not collective, but it's individual that we are very excited about too, because you all know our colleague, she's the CCO of our company. She's one of the best managers. She's been recognized by the Managers Association of Vizcaya, and this is an award that was given to her a week ago. So it's great because it's very personal, but I think that it shows how much talent we have in-house, and our colleague definitely deserves this. Well, it shows that having talent is also very positive for the company. And well, this is what I said before. This year, well, it's going to be finishing very soon, as the secretary was pointing out before. And we hope that we will end on a very positive note and that we will make further progress and that we will carry on creating value because we know that we are more than ready to address the challenges and opportunities that are cropping up in the continuous market. And we have to carry on growing because, as I pointed out at the beginning, the best is yet to arrive. But before moving on to the Q&A, I would like to ask the secretary to tell us how much capital is present at this AGM. Well, I can confirm that the provisional quorum previously mentioned is the definitive figure. So therefore, we can say that we have either present or represented at the AGM. We have 46,856,853 shares, representing 82.7% of the capital stock. So as pointed out previously, we have shareholders present or represented that exceed 50% of the capital stock, which is the minimum quorum that is required to hold this AGM. Well, before moving on to the votes, if any of the shareholders would like to take the floor, as established in Article 157 of the corporate tax or the corporate law, we now move on to the Q&A session, or we can move on to your questions. Okay, as there are no questions, as there are no comments, we will close the Q&A session, and therefore I would like to ask the secretary to move on to the approval of the agreements that we mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, so we will now move on to the votes separately, each one of the points that form part of the agenda of this AGM. So point number one, the exclusion of the negotiation, the totality of the shares representing the capital stock of the company in the BME growth segment, and that we accept the negotiation of all of the shares that are in the capital stock of the company in the stock exchange through the Spanish stock exchange interconnection system. Is this approved? So this is approved unanimously. It's passed unanimously. Point number two, modification of the bylaws in order to adapt them to the bylaws of a listed company in a regulated market and also to the practices of corporate governance. Is this approved? Point number two is also unanimously approved. Point number three, we are now going to vote on the approval of the regulations of the AGM. Is this approved? So we can also say that point number three on the agenda is unanimously passed. Point number four of the AGM was an informative element, and that is, well, it was the approval of the regulations of the board, so we are not going to vote on this particular point. Point number five refers to the appointment of new members of the board of directors. So section 5.1, and as the Square Ber Sociedad Limitada is going to be leaving, we suggest the appointment of Mr. Lander Arteteguía as a proprietary director for 4 years. Is this approved? The agreement is approved, and Mr. Lander Arteteguía is present. Do you accept the appointment? And do you declare that you are not in a situation of incompatibility? Thank you very much, Lander. And this has been approved with 93.3% of votes in favor. And as regards the count of the votes that have been sent remotely, we've had 0.07 of the votes cast that way, 0.52. And as Gestión de Capital Riesgo del País Vasco will be leaving, we now suggest that Ms. Amaya del Villarrodrigo be appointed a proprietary director for 4 years. This approved. Amaya is also here, and we have to ask if you accept your appointment and if you have any incompatibilities to declare. Well, okay. We therefore approve the agreement with by 99.60% of the votes in favor, because it's 0.41 of the votes in against. Point number six refers to the approval of the new remuneration policy for the directors for the years 2025, 26, and 27. Is this approved? Point number six is unanimously passed too. And point number seven refers to the delegation of powers for the execution of these agreements that have already been passed by the AGM. Is this approved? It's also unanimously approved. So therefore, we have passed all of the agreements that refer to that are mentioned on the agenda with the voting considerations that have been mentioned by the secretary. And to close, we suggest that we approve the minutes that have been drafted whilst this session was taking place. And unless you think otherwise, we can consider that it has been fully read and therefore can be subject to approval. Do we approve the minutes of the session? Perfect. So before finishing then, I would like to welcome the new directors, London and Amaya. Welcome. And I would also like to take the opportunity to formally initiate this process that we have approved today, and which in theory will mean that Arteche will be listed on the continuous market. And then, well, considering the time of the year, I know that some of you are here and some of you are watching us through streaming. Well, happy Christmas. And let's only hope that the year finishes well, and let's only hope that next year will be absolutely wonderful for all of us. So consequently, the minutes are approved, and as there are no further issues to be discussed, the meeting is adjourned here. Thank you.